Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of Forever Blues, podcast for all things Birmingham City. My name's Neil Moxley. My co-host is called Colin Tattum, legend of the Birmingham City reporting scene that he is. Obviously, before we start, our grateful thanks as always to Davison's Law for sponsoring the podcast. It seems like an age ago, Cole, doesn't it, that we were, but it wasn't. But it seems like an age ago without any football. We've had the international break. And a couple of interesting developments surrounding some of the players that have been away as well.
Yeah, like you mentioned, we forget the Wrexham game was on the Friday, wasn't it? And Chris Davies changed the team. We were just going through it then, weren't we?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the goalie was changing. Mark Leonard came in, and then everything will be dictated to, I guess, by some of the, like you mentioned there, some of the internationals. The biggest, the key one, Demarai Gray coming home from duty with Jamaica with a bit of a groin issue. Steve McLaren saying, it was a blow to them. They've lost an important player, and he had to come back for treatment back here. So that will be a factor for the next game at home to Hull City on Saturday. And also, you have to check on Paik Seung-ho as well. He tends to travel the furthest distance, even get my words out, for obvious reasons. South Korea, and then also man of the moment really, Lyndon Dykes doing the business for Scotland, coming off the bench, scoring late goals and getting two good results. So there's a lot to think about for the manager after an international break, isn't it? I guess you want the season just to keep coming, two games a week, etc. But these breaks, the second one we've had so far, it's how you come out of it, isn't it? And we saw the last time, didn't we, at Stoke City? Blues didn't fare that well, especially in those opening 20 minutes of the game. I mean, is that a factor, do you think, that players, especially ones who have been away and played for their countries, is it a factor mentally, physically when they get back to the bread and butter?
Yeah, I think it is. I think we touched upon before that there's an emotional intensity surrounding playing for your international side that isn't always there with your day job, for want of a better word. And I do think it has to be taken into consideration. But I'm sure Chris Davies does. He spent a lot of time around international footballers in his other jobs. Celtic, Liverpool, Spurs, Leicester. They've all had major exoduses when international weeks came about. And it would have been interesting to learn what he actually picked up from Brendan Rodgers, and because that's who he mainly worked under, as to the way to deal with them. I do tend to think there is a bit of a hangover. I have to be honest, and certainly, like we have touched upon before, travelling thousands of miles does sound like I was in the camp. How bad can it be? Do you know what I mean? But having done it, numerous times myself over, being fortunate to go away with the international sides and all the rest of it. If you are coming back from Moscow, I think that was the worst one. It's sort of like 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning. It does take it out of you when you're meant to be, sort of like, bright and breezy at work on Friday morning.
Yeah, but that's because you've had a wee dram. You've rolled your socks up.
Yeah, I've got more than a wee dram normally. To be fair,
put your head down in first class, and that's easy.
Easy. Yeah. The only time I put my head down in first class, I think I woke up with the entire plane's contents on my head. And I came back from.
What was that?
I was working for the Daddy Star in the northeast, and it was a horrible trip We'd been to Partizan Belgrade, and it was just when the NATO hostilities had broken out, so everybody was out to get to Newcastle. So we had a charter plane on the way home, and there was about 300 seats on this damn thing. You had a row to yourself, and then I made the mistake of falling asleep, and then effectively woke up. And there was cartons, there was bottles, there was just basically just loaded on top of me, to be honest with you. Well, note to self, don't do that again. But anyway, that's enough of that. But so it is different. I'd just be interested to can you second guess what he might do for the whole game?
It's intriguing because obviously the team was changed for Wrexham. This is a home game. You'd think there'd be a bit of continuity there. So I'd imagine James Beadle will stay in goal. Whether Mark Leonard starts, I'm not so sure, because Chris Davies did make the point he wanted him for his energy. He's a little bit probably more physicality. He sort of said afterwards than Tommy Doyle, who we thought may have started at Wrexham. Then you've got obviously the conundrum with Demarai Gray. If he doesn't start, then you have to look at a replacement there. You're assuming Lewis Kumas, but you don't know. So it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Picking up the baton again and getting back down to business and seeing what the team is like.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, could he throw Keshi Anderson back in? And it came on a little cameo, wasn't there, at Wrexham on that left-hand side, and I thought he was one of the players that started the season particularly well, actually.
That's a good shout, actually, and you'd imagine if he's been, training regularly in this period, that he should be a contender to start, because, like you said, you know what you get from him, don't you? And he's very underrated. And he can really give the team a solid foothold initially in the game. And if you remember the Stoke game, Chris Davis was quite critical, wasn't he? He said Blues started soft, which is, it's quite strong for him to say that first 20 minutes. And they were sort of ran ragged a little bit. This is at home, obviously. So you'd imagine he will want it to be on the other foot. You imagine he will want Blues to be really the aggressor.
Yeah,
like they were in the Swansea City game, some interesting selections to ponder on, and also the visitors. Hull City went into the break 1-0 winners over Sheffield United. I know the keeper saved a penalty, but they've picked up a little bit. It was a bit of a disaster zone, and in the summer and embargoes and problems that they've had, but. They've picked up. They seem to be sort of finding their rhythm a little bit, and also they have a man in form, Oli McBurnie, the Championship Player of the Month for September. What's your view of him? What sort of threats and problems does he bring as that centre forward?
We were talking off camera before we came on, and I just think if he wore our shirt. I think Blues fans would absolutely love him. He reminds me a little bit in terms of the way he operates as Steve Claridge. In terms of Claridge used to make excellent channel runs, was a bit of a nuisance. McBurnie's got more of a physical presence in terms of his height and his stature and all the rest of it. But in terms of his overall play, his goals output, in terms of being a focal point for the attack, in terms of being available. I really quite like him. I mean, but I was talking to in the past, talking to the Sheffield reporters, and it seems to me that Sheffield United is pretty much the blue collar club of Sheffield, and they appreciate people that put it in for the shirt, and he was pretty much he was loved there. Do you know what I mean? So I've got a lot of time for McBurnie, and it's interesting to see him thriving, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a good pickup, actually. Las Palmas, wasn't it? He left in the summer. It was actually a shrewd bit of business. He's got 7 goals, 3 assists. And like you said, he has been a talisman for them. Now, whether this 2-week break has stopped the momentum and what have you that he may have built up, you don't know, do you? But undoubtedly, he's going to be a threat, and somebody that defensively that Blues are going to have to pick up. But you look at McBurnie, and I mentioned earlier Lyndon Dykes. He's Blues McBurnie at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
His confidence must be high as well, having a good few days away with the Scottish national team.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play the whole game against Belarus, did he? He came on, I think. But he's another one. But I do sort of kind of suspect that if Marvin Dux is fit, I would think that Dux would go, straight in. To be quite honest with you, and I have to be honest. I see Lyndon Dykes' value really is coming off the bench late on when you're trying to salvage something. I'm not denigrating him, but straight choice between the two. I think you're going to play the guy for the former German international probably ahead of the Scotland one. But I just think that I saw I think they're going to be a bit more sticky than people realise. Hull, and I say that because I watched them play for half the game against Coventry City in the opening day of the season, where it was I think they were the only side this season to stop Cov scoring. Maybe not, but certainly it finished 0-0 when they were definitely competitive in that game. So if you're using Coventry as a benchmark at the moment, you know they're going to be, they're pretty much like Blues, that, you know, they've had win one, lose one, you know, draw one sort of start. But I think they're going to be sticky. I don't you know, too cliche to say there's no easy games in the Championship. This one is a tight one to call, I think.
Yeah, I think since that opening day, they've conceded 16 goals in 8 games.
Right.
So that tells you, I know that's something that Hull have been working on to stop shipping goals that easily, and I think that they've sort of did address that in the previous couple of games. So that you'd imagine there will be opportunities, there will be openings. So it's down to how Blues can, as we talked about before, how they can get their better creative players to unlock the doors, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we're sitting here speaking at the moment. The story's just broken about Tom Wagner going into the dressing room after the Wrexham game. Don't know what were your sort of like main takeaways on that. I understand it was to give the players a bit of a pep talk, say, look, we're all united and the one cause, blah 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 blah. What do you think that's a good move? Do you think he was just there so he decided to sat in the spur of the moment? I mean, you know, sometimes it's frowned upon, isn't it?
It is, and I think what you have to remember that you know, he's not here 24/7. So when he comes over from America, he will you know, go down to the training ground. He will speak to the players and management, and obviously he was heading back, and he probably just thought it was the right time to do it. And ultimately, he's the chairman of the club. Like you said, if he was doing it every week, that's when you go, hold on, something isn't right here. You know, the chairman, you know, the main man shouldn't be doing that. But I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it. And as we saw pre-match, the words he said about Chris Davis and about the team, they were rational, they were sensible. So I don't think you know, it's not like he was kicking down the doors and going mad like a crazy sort of Mediterranean owner, for want of a better phrase, or what have you. So yeah, it's you know, it's ultimately it's sort of like it's his baby, it's his club in many respects, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think you know, I think Blues are used to that anyway as well. So you know, when Tom Brady comes over, he goes to the training ground and he will meet with the players. You know, he has Zoom calls with them anyway, and they'll have an informal chat, this, that, the other. So I don't think it's you know, 20 odd years ago, if you had a chairman coming into the dressing room like that's well, hold on. But I think it's a little bit. I don't think it's that big a problem now. And I wouldn't say it's normal. But yeah, but I mean, we're not party to what he said, but assuming it was you know, a bit of a lift me up and a sort of a positive message or a note to all and sundry, as we saw the sort of comments he said when he was on the terraces at half time.
Yeah, I mean, I you were covering the club on a day-to-day basis, you know, back in throughout all of the Sullivan and Gold regime. I know Sullivan rarely moved out of his bunker in Essex, did he? But David Gold was a bit more of a visible presence, wasn't he, on occasion?
Yeah, he would come in before a game and just wish the players luck and go around and shake their hands. It was purely that, really. And I think even they realised they tended to stay away from the dressing room afterwards. There was no like ranting and raving and people sort of like storming down the steps to go in to tear a strip off players or management and what have you. So yeah, it was, yeah, but with David, you know, God rest his soul, it was just a sort of, you know, right guys, good luck today, hope it goes well, and you know, and I think, you know, players, you know, they'd appreciate that, really.
Yeah.
You know, and it came from the right place as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The other sort of big news today, this week, that's sort of happened in the interim since we last spoke, was about the Sports Quarter. It seems as though things are picking up there. There's the open house, isn't there, that's coming up very shortly, and also the publication of a website dedicated to the Sports Quarter.
Yeah, it looks like just a sort of landing page at the moment, sportsquarter.com, I think it is, for a questionnaire. Blues said they were going to council opinion of local residents in East Birmingham and also supporters. So now that's up and running. So you can see the wheels, if you pardon the pun, are turning, definitely. So the questionnaire is basically they're trying to find out from residents, from supporters, what would you like to see from the sports quarter? Things that you think would improve, not just for Birmingham City in terms of a stadium per se, but for the community. What are the community looking for from your sports quarter?
I think that's a pretty good idea, actually, to be honest, to put in to go out and ask, because to coin a phrase, no man's an island. Do you know what I mean? You can't have covered all the bases. Nobody can. So by getting a bit of input from other people, you're getting a proper consultation process, aren't you?
Yeah, and people forgetting it, and Birmingham City have been at pains to point this out. It's not just about a nice 60,000 plus state of the art wow factor design stadium. It's also about doing good for Birmingham and that part of the community. And I was looking up. I mean, East Birmingham, there's about a population 375,000, and 27% of that population have never worked, and that's twice the national average. And there's 50% child poverty. So it is about doing good for the community, where the sports quarter over, I think it's up to 125 plus acres now. That's the actual site. It's going to be massive. So this is the first port of call, really, to get the opinion of the people who live in and around it, and also obviously us as Birmingham City fans who will be visiting the area. So it's like I said, the wheels are turning quite slowly, and I believe we're fairly imminent for Blues to sort of be announcing the appointment of the architects.
Oh, right, okay.
I think that's fairly soon. I'm not so sure whether that will come out in the open house. I'm not sure on October the 22nd. That it may be a theme, or obviously it may be not touched upon, but it will be dealt with. But I think, remembering what Nick Smith said previously, that there's been a paid competition and they're down to the final few, and it's imminent. So we'll find out who is going to be, the architects of the new stadium.
Yeah, it's exciting times, really, aren't they? I mean, there's always a frisson of excitement around
Good
football
word.
club. I know. I try my best.
I'm impressed.
About
you said cachet last time as well.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
And dint. Do you like that one?
Dint, cachet, frijon. Very good.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Come here for a bit of education, or don't. Please don't. I'll probably use it incorrect. It's probably a Del Boy, isn't it? I was just sort of saying, there's always levels of excitement around new developments and football clubs. I mean, you've only got to look at Everton's Bramley-Moore Dock. I mean, what sort of stadium, would you like to see? I mean, in terms of ethos. I mean, I've had a look at the Bramley-Moore Dock one, and people have sort of said, I think from outside it's stunning. From inside it leaves a little. I think there's a lack of character there that Goodison had. But Goodison was such an iconic venue that it's difficult to try and recreate that in a modern. But I think externally what they've done is absolutely visually stunning. But to be honest with you, the benchmark for me is what Tattum have done, because that's the best stadium I think I've ever been. It's just fantastic.
I was fortunate to go there when it was in lockdown, when we went down there for a friendly. So I've been around it and in the dressing room areas everywhere. It's just unbelievable. And when it's full and everything, and the atmosphere, it is just something special, isn't it? And like you, I'd imagine Blues would use that as a blueprint, this is what we're sort of looking for. But you know what they're going to be like, but better. We want something a little bit more striking, a bit more unique.
Yeah.
Everton Stadium, I'm not saying I'm underwhelmed. I've not been there, so I'm only passing comment of what I've seen. But other people have said this as well. It looks like very much like one of their identical Bundesliga stadiums to me.
Yeah.
So
internally, it does.
So it's a bit samey.
Yeah.
I would hope that Blues, do something a little bit different and
put their own stamp on it.
And I think that's the plan. That is the plan. So when we see the designs and the drawings, it will be fascinating to realise what they've come up with. But I'm not saying I'm underwhelmed by it. Like I said, I can't really pass comments. I've not been there, but it just leaves me a little bit. Okay, that's nice. That looks good.
Yeah,
I think
we
this
should do for 700 odd million.
Yeah, I think the steepness of the stands is one thing as well, isn't it?
They should be used to that, because in that old, it was steep in that the main stand, wasn't it?
That was unbelievable at Goodison, wasn't it? Yeah, you are literally looking down at your feet.
Yeah, the only one that's similar to that is I always felt was the away top bit of the away enclosure at Sheffield United when they had it. That was quite a steep sort of stand.
Yeah, because I think that's what a lot of Blues fans have said, haven't they? They want a sort of like a blue wall sort of thing at one end, where the steepness of the stands and at Coventry's ground, can't remember what it's called.
CBS.
What is it? The Rico Casino? I can't remember. Anyway, that's quite steep, and when it's full, it does keep the noise in. So that angle of the the seating does help. So again, that's another factor. But yeah, I hope Blues come up with something striking and is in keeping with our heritage as well, and the city's heritage, which I think that's the plan. So
you'll remember. I mean, obviously you were sitting in the chair when Sullivan and Gold unveiled plans to redevelop the Tilton and Cop, and everybody just like looked at it and thought that never happened, didn't we? We just like looked at it and laughed, didn't we? I still remember to this day picking up the paper and seeing the designs in there. Yeah,
and they did well, because it came from a football foundation grant, and then the railway end came from a share issue.
Oh right,
so
okay.
I'm not sure they paid that much actually to redevelop the Cop and the Tilton and the railway. But I always remember they were going, it's going to be the Old Trafford of the Midlands, and it's going to be, there's room to have another tier on. No, there wasn't. There never was.
Right.
It never was.
No. And you've always been hamstrung by the main stand and the proximity to the flats at the back as well, haven't you, to be honest? So
yeah, absolutely. And it will be a shame when the old main stand does go, because that is, I mean, obviously that I've spent most of my time there, and I do like it in its own strange way, because you're not going to get something like that ever again.
No.
So it does have its own character.
It's got a charm. Let's put it.
A charm, yeah. As long as the asbestos has gone completely, it has got a charm, hasn't it? Yeah.
Obviously, potentially carcinogenic, but that's a good word as well, isn't it? Eh?
I'm very impressed. Very impressed. The other thing is as well about the time scale. I mean, building a new stadium, let alone sports quarter, obviously it's all not going to be done at the same time, obviously. But again, it was mooted. Nick Smith did at a business lunch in the past week, and it came out of that they were looking at around 2031. Does that time scale fit in with what you've heard or what you'd imagine? Well,
I think it was it April 2024, wasn't it, that it was first announced? So it will be 2 years in April since Tom Wagner announced it. It was the very start of April 2024, and Tom, in his usual bullish way, sort of said, I'd like it. They tell me it's 8 years, so I want it done in 5. And I just thought to myself, it's never going to happen. Not because of any lack of willingness on the owner, on the part of the Blues owner, but just the sheer complexity of getting, planning applications, consultation meetings. It's taken 7 years to put a mile's worth of tram track in, hasn't it, down from Brum through Digbeth. So to do all that lot, I felt was a bit ambitious. But one thing he has got is he's got a driving determination to see it through. Also, it's a very public-facing project. People will be sort of like asking questions about where we're up to with this. There's no chance of it stalling at any stage. Once you get the green light, these things tend to go full steam ahead. And also, I think the other important thing to take into consideration with it is you've got buy-in from pretty much everybody. Yeah. They've secured some government funding. They've clearly got the funds and they want to do it. And as you've just said, that actual area of East Birmingham is crying out for some investments and for some good news.
Yeah, the other thing is that it's not just some government funding, it's like 380 million.
Yeah.
For the extension for the metro. And the lobbying that they've done in where it matters, it's been incredible really to get that backing on board, because I suppose, if you're in the government and you're saying, we're prepared to build a £2-3 billion project here, stadium, sports quarter. So you've got to help us as well.
Yeah.
And if you turn that down as a government, you're bonkers. So they know what they're doing. And I think we said that this before, Marks, that people who don't really know the Birmingham story of late, they just think it's all pie in the sky. You hear all this before, but this is happening.
Yeah.
This is being driven ahead. And again, I think very, very soon, the next few days, there's a West Midlands Mayoral Development Corporation being set up, which encompasses the sports quarter land.
Right.
So like you said, it's there for everyone to see. It's going to be public facing. People are going to be accountable, and you can't just say, yeah, we're going to build this stadium, I'm going to build this sports quarter, and then it all goes quiet. It's happening. It's happening. I mean, us pair of old what have yous, it's a shame it wasn't 20 years ago, but for the future generations, once this gets done and up and running 10, 15, 20 years, it could be, wow. Yeah. Honestly, it could completely change the face of how football clubs operate. Genuinely, yeah. I do think that.
Yeah. No.
Where else are you going to get a plot of land in a city the size of Birmingham, half a mile from the centre, 125 acres as is at the moment, and blank canvas to go, okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It is exciting. The more we talk about it, it's I guess because we've seen all sorts, haven't we, over the years of Birmingham City. So this could be like, really? Well, please,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, for those who haven't got any frame of reference, if you ever go up to the Etihad, that's a sports. They call it Sports City, don't they? I was up there recently watching a women's game actually at the stadium next door, the Joy Stadium and whatever, where there's a walkway from the Etihad over to the sister stadium, and there's trams that are flying left, right, and centre, and there's other national associations, bodies up there. I think the cycling's up there or something. I think there's a velodrome up there. I mean, it's in a pretty similar sort of in terms of the demographics. It's a pretty similar sort of site. So look, it'd be wonderful, if it goes, when it goes ahead, not if, but it'd be. I think it's a bit more open as to when it gets done. Do you know what I mean? I think that people might have to be a bit more realistic, because I just don't see it being, 2031 is going to be pushing it, because there's just so many hurdles to overcome.
Mentioned obviously Manchester City in the Etihad campus. Blues, various people from Blues have been up there quite regularly on fact-finding missions.
Ah, right, okay.
Not just on the football side, but say on the education side. What do you do for your academy in terms of schooling and stuff like that?
Well, Man City send, I can answer that one. They send all their brightest young talent, but they've obviously got the best and the brightest. I think they send it to a school called St Bede's.
St Bede's, yeah. I think it may even be on site now. They may have changed. I don't know, but things like that. So all sorts of different departments, from academy, from first team, from women's, everything. And I think they will have collated so much information, let alone from the nuts and bolts of actually building a site like that from scratch. So again, this is what makes you excited that it is being pushed ahead. This is happening. It's not a pipe dream.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to find out what they're planning to do at this open house, if we've been invited. Well, one of us has been.
Look, jealousy's not jealousy's. It's not a good thing. So you just have to get over it.
Oh well. Anyway, I think we've probably said enough, haven't we, this week, mate? Look, onwards, upwards, all good stuff. Thank you for joining us. If you're listening this far, I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard. Grateful thanks as always to Davison's Law and AMG Logistics, Drain Tech and Bewdley Spirits. So thank you very much. Just finally, if you can ask to follow, like and subscribe, because it does make a difference. And hopefully see you all after we've bagged another 3 points against the mighty Tigers, when we dish out a mauling of our own. And on that note, see you next time.